Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team review, where today I'm going over the Blooded Kill Team for 3rd edition. But before I go into things, thanks goes to the Games Workshop providing these to review. And as always, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you think of the Blooded changes and the review. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And please remember, everything you hear from the audio is correct. What you see on the screen is just stuff I've typed up because I can't show you what I can see. So it should mostly be correct, but it's in an abridged form in terms of wording. And there might be one or two errors because I typed them all up at like 2 a.m. because I'm so tired. But let's get on with the review. For your roster, archetype-wise, you're not just seek and destroy, you're infiltration now, which is really, really good. Something Blooded really wanted. Operative-wise, you still have to take a chieftain, who is your leader, and they can either have a bolt pistol and chainsword, auto pistol or las pistol, and then either chainsword or power weapon, bolt gun and bayonet, or plasma pistol and improvised blade. Then you can select 9 more operatives, and you have to select either the Brimstone Grenadier, Butcher, Commsman, Flenser, 4 different gunners, sharpshooter, thug, trench sweeper, or trooper. And within that mix, you can only have a mix of 3 gunners, including the sniper. The sniper is basically another gunner. So you could have a sharpshooter and 2 gunners or 3 gunners. And then you can only have 1 source of plasma on the team. So you can't have the plasma pistol with the plasma gunner. So you can have the plasma pistol leader, but no plasma gunner. Or you can have the plasma gunner, but then the leader without the plasma pistol. Then you can take 4 more operatives, and you can take an enforcer, which counts as 2 selections, the Ogrin, which counts as 2 selections, or 4 troopers, so otherwise unchanged for your kill team selection. The main thing is just the leader and the plasma, so you're generally taking a plasma gun and then a leader with a power weapon, but more on that later. For the faction rules, you still have blooded tokens, so you gain 1 blooded token in the ready step of each strategy phase. You also gain 1 the first time an enemy operative is incapacitated during the turning point, as well as the first time a friendly operative is incapacitated within 6 inches of an enemy operative during each turning point. As a strategic gambit, you can assign any of your unassigned blooded tokens to friendly blooded operatives. Each operative cannot have more than 1 of your blooded tokens. Then if 4 or more friendly operatives in the battle in the kill zone have blooded tokens, you can select 1 of them to be under the gaze of the gods until the end of the turning point. Whenever a friendly blooded operative has 1 of your blooded tokens, its weapons have the accurate 1 weapon rule, and if that friendly operative is under the gaze of the gods, you can retain 1 of their successes as a result of the accurate 1 rule as a critical hit instead. So otherwise, completely the same, but there's some minor tweaks going on with generation. Remember, if an operative dies with a blooded token, you lose that blooded token, so you have to be kind of cautious how you deal them out, but otherwise they're mostly unchanged. For strategy ploys, you have glory kills, so select 1 enemy operative visible to a friendly blooded operative until the end of the turning point. Whenever a friendly blooded operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against the enemy operative, friendly operative weapons have the ceaseless weapon rule, or relentless instead of if they're shooting, fighting, or retaliating with that operative that has a blooded token. So it's actually been buffed quite a bit, because before it just used to give blood balanced. Now it gives ceaseless, but if you're attacking with someone who has a blooded token, you gain relentless. So that is pretty crazy. Glory kill went from being like good to amazing. Then you have reckless aspirant. Whenever a friendly blooded operative that's wholly within your opponent's territory and doesn't have 1 of your blooded tokens is shooting or fighting, its weapon has the accurate 1 special rule. And then whenever a friendly blooded operative that has 1 of your blooded tokens is wholly within your opponent's territory, its weapons have the punishing rule instead. So pretty much the same, but it's nice. It's still very, very good. I think the buff there is for blooded token operatives, which is really, really good. Then you've got Malevolent Grit. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly blooded operative that has 1 of your blooded tokens or is wholly within your opponent's territory, you can reroll 1 of your defense dice. So this is some nice defense for you aggressively pushing up the field, which is really good. It's not extra movement, but you may have those clutch 5-up saves which keep you alive, which is nice. Then you've got Bitter Demise. Whenever a friendly blooded operative is incapacitated, roll 1d3 on a 3 or 2-up. If that friendly operative has 1 of your blooded tokens, inflict that damage equal to the result on 1 enemy operative visible to and within 2 inches of that friendly operative. So I don't really think that that's great unless you're just suicide running into people. But the funny thing is, I think this stacks with the Brimstone Grenadier. So if you wanted to put all that CP into the Brimstone Grenadier, that's fine. But overall, the strategy ploys have been buffed quite a lot, because before you were just mainly spending your CP on maybe glory kill and then saving the rest for rerolls. But this is really, really good. You're definitely going to be using glory kill all the time, and probably reckless aspirant. It's really good. Then for firefight ploys, you have Callous Disregard. So use this firefight ploy when a friendly blooded operative performs a shoot action and you're selecting a valid target. Having other friendly blooded operatives within an enemy operative's control range doesn't prevent that enemy operative from being selected. Until the end of that action, whenever you discard an attack dice as a fail, inflict damage equal to the dice result on one friendly operative of your choice within control range of that enemy, of that target. So effectively, it's a CP to shoot into close combat, completely unchanged. Although now you can kind of spread out the misses into multiple targets, so kind of hurts your opponent, you know, multi-charging. But it's a really good deterrent for your opponent, like trying to charge block you, like hiding in close combat. It's still really, really good and probably their best firefight ploy. Then you have Moment of Repute. Use this firefight ploy during the activation of a friendly blooded operative that's under gaze of the gods. Before or after it performs an action. Until the end of that operative's activation, you give them +1 APL, which is completely the same. So +1 APL for a gaze of the gods. Very, very good. Then you've got Reward Earned. Use this firefight ploy when an enemy operative is incapacitated by a friendly blooded operative within 2 inches of it that has one of your blooded tokens. You gain 1 blooded token. So you will never spend CP on this, and you'll find out near the end. But otherwise it's okay. Then you have Dark Favor. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly blooded operative that has one of your blooded tokens is selected as the valid target of a shoot action or to fight during the fight action. Select one of your friendly blooded operatives visible and within 3 of that friendly operative to become the valid target to be fought or shot against instead, even if it normally wouldn't be a valid target. If it's the fight action, treat that operative as being within the fighting operative's control range for the duration of that action. This ploy has no effect on the shoot action if the shoot action itself has blast or torrent. So it's effectively get down Mr. President for anyone with a blooded token. It's very, very good because it means you win shootouts like with other shooty kill teams. So it's a very, very good firefight ploy. You have very, very good firefight ploys in general. And now you're in a tough spot as a blooded player where do you go, do I stock my CP for firefight ploys or do I just hold it, like spend it on my strategy ploys, or do I try and do a nice mix, which is really good because before they were basically using their firefight ploys as their strategy ploys and not using their strategy ploys at all. So it's a good buff for the team overall. For operatives, you have the Traitor Chieftain, who can either have an auto pistol or las pistol, which are both 4 attacks in on freeze 2-3, exactly the same range 8. Then they can also have a bolt gun, which is 4 attacks in on freeze 3-4. And you can also give them the plasma pistol, which is 4 attacks in on freeze 3-5, range 8, piercing 1. And then the supercharge mode, which is 4 attacks in on freeze 4-5, range 8, hot, lethal 5 up, piercing 1. You've got the bayonet, which is 3 attacks in on freeze 2-3. The chainsword, which is 4 attacks in on freeze 4-5. The improvised blade, which is 4 attacks in on freeze 2-3. And then the power weapon, which is 4 attacks in on freeze 4-6, lethal 5 up. So it's more for the operative selection, but personally, I always go power weapon leader now because the kill team is more combat focused, and you ideally want the plasma pistol. Well, the plasma pistol is nice. It's probably better on Gallo Dark, but I think the plasma gun is better overall for the threat range, even though it hits on 4s. So you're probably not running the plasma pistol leader anymore. It has the blooded icon, so once per turning point when a friendly blooded operative that has one of your blooded tokens is incapacitated, if this operative is within 6 inches of it, you regain that token. So it's a way to safely, harvest your blooded tokens back. Then you've got lead with strength. Whenever this operative has one of your blooded tokens and is wholly within your opponent's territory, treat it as under gaze of the gods, which is unchanged. So your leader is very, very good, which is why I kind of prefer it with the power weapon, because it's more likely to roll into combat with 2 crits and just like murder someone. You've got the Brimstone Grenadier, who has 2 APL, 6-inch move, 5 up save, 7 wounds. Your leader had 8. This is the profile for the rest of your team. It has the Diabolic Bomb, which is 4 attacks, hitting on freeze, 4-3, range 6, blast 2, devastating 2, limited 1, heavy, reposition only, piercing 1, saturate. So it has been changed because it used to be 3-3 splash 2, but I think this is a better profile, but now you can't move and dash it. Well, you can't reposition and dash, you can only reposition. And then it's got a las gun, which is 4 attacks in on 4s 2-3, and a bayonet, which is 3 attacks in on 4s 2-3. It's got the Grenadier rule, so this operative can use the frag and crack grenades. Doing so doesn't count towards any limited rules you have. And also, if you're using those equipments, it doesn't count as one of your choices and you get +1 to hit. So it hits on freeze with frags and cracks and it comes with them. So if you took the universal equipment, you would have 2 cracks or 2 frags or a crack and a frag, and the Brimstone can still use its own. It's got explosive demise, so if this operative is incapacitated, you can use this rule. If you do, roll 2d6 or 1d6 if this operative is within control range of an enemy operative. If any result is a 4-up, inflict d3 plus 2 damage on each enemy operative visible and within 2 inches of this operative. If this operative hadn't used its diabolic bomb during the battle, inflict d6 plus 2 instead. But generally your tactic with the diabolic bomb, it's unchanged, but you move within 2 inches of someone, you drop the diabolic bomb on them, probably hitting other people, then flash back on itself, kill itself, so everyone's just taking all these devastating damages, and then you do the explosive demise. So you do have to be careful if you're charged. The damage is a bit less now, and you're unlikely to ever proc the d6 plus 2, but it's a nice deterrent anyway. But overall, the Brimstone Grenadier is less of like a move dash deleter, so it has been nerfed slightly, but I still think it's really good overall. It's just no longer like, I delete something, then I die. It's like, you now have to trade it and set it up properly, which I think is a fair trade. Then you've got the Butcher, which has 2 APL, 6-inch move, 5-up save, and 8 wounds. It has the Power Weapon and Cleaver, which is 4 attacks, 8 on freeze, 4-6, ceaseless, lethal 5-up Blood Offering. It didn't used to be ceaseless. You've got Unholy Sustenance whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating. If it incapacitates an enemy operative in that sequence, it regains D3 lost wounds, which can also be cumulative with one of your equipment pieces. It has Blood Offering, so whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating with its weapons, the first time you strike with a critical success during that sequence, you gain 1 Blooded token, which is completely unchanged. The nice thing is got its built-in ceaseless, which is really good. So you may not give him combat drugs all the time, but you probably will. Then you've got the Traitor Commsman, who has your standard team profile with a lasgun and bayonet. It has the support signal rule, so for an action point, select 1 friendly operative visible and within 6 to gain +1 APL, which is the same as before. And then it's got a new profile. So this is Sacrilegious Actuation, which is 1 action point. You gain 1 Blooded token, but the costs for this is this operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative, or if it doesn't have one of your Blooded tokens. So what you will have to do turning point 1 to get use out of this is to give your Commsman a Blooded token. So going into turning point 2, you start off with 3 because you'll get 2 turning point 1, and then going into turning point 3, you'll get 3. Maybe another one if you've generated another one naturally during turning point 1. It's the cost of like applying long range threat with your plasma gun by giving them a Blooded token. But for reliability and doing for a hard counterpunch turning point 2, I think this is the better play. It does make your Commsman static, but it's a nice buff they've given the Commsman. Then you've got the Corpseman, who has a lasgun, bayonet, and stim needle, and the stim needle is 3 attacks, 8 on 5s, 1-4 lethal 5-up. So the stim special rules are as follow. You can either do Rejuvenated, which heals 2d3 lost wounds, Enraged, where the operative's melee weapons have the Relentless special rule, and then Fortified, so whenever an attack dice inflicts a damage of 3 or more on that friendly operative, on a 5-up subtract 1 from the damage. So Fortified used to be a 6-up feel no pain, that's been changed. And then you've got Regular Dosage. At the end of the select operative step, if this operative is selected for deployment, you can select 1 other friendly blooded operative to gain a stim rule for the rest of the battle, excluding Rejuvenated. And then you've got the stims action. Select 1 friendly blooded operative within this operative's control range, then select either Rejuvenation or the other stim rules to be applied for the rest of the battle, and each operative can only be affected by each stim once per battle. So if you heal someone, you then can't heal them the next turning point. And you can't do it while in control range. So technically he's been nerfed with his damage negation, but the fact he still gives Relentless to people is crazy. Relentless is super rare, and Blooded get it like it's not out of fashion. Like, it's raining Relentless for Blooded. So you always take the Corpseman because you give the Ogrin, if you're taking the Ogrin Relentless, and then you give like the Butcher Relentless, or you give the Butcher Relentless and then give someone else Relentless. Very, very good. Then you have the Traitor Enforcer, who has 2 APL, 6-inch movement, 4-up save, 9 wounds. Has a bolt pistol, which 4 attacks, 8 on freeze, 3-4, range 8. And then a Power Fist, which is 4 attacks, 8 on 4s, 5-7 brutal. So it has Grueling Disciplinarian. When a friendly blooded operative is within 6 inches of this operative, you can ignore any changes to their stats from being injured. It applies to himself. Before it only affected movement. Now they ignore being injured for shooting. So this is really like the Enforcer is so good. Then you have the Enforce action for 1 AP. Select one other friendly blooded operative that's visible and within 3 inches of the operative. That friendly operative can immediately perform a 1 AP action for free, but it cannot move more than 2 inches during that action. If the selected friendly operative is a commsman, they cannot perform the sacrilegious actuation or signal action, so you can't make your comms again or generate more blooded tokens. You can't do well in control range. The Enforcer is really good because when it used to use Enforce, if it made you shoot, you had -1 to hit and then -1 again if you overwatch later. But now you just fire on full ballistic skill. The Enforcer is great. You have a plasma gun that fires twice, a melter gun that fires twice, and everyone just ignores being injured within 6 inches. Very, very useful. And the Power Fist still hits on 4s. Normally, you might have seen that hit on 5s, but that's unchanged, so it's still a really solid piece. Then you've got the Flenser, who has 7 wounds, has Skinning Blades, which are 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 3/4 ceaseless Stalk. So Stalk, whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating with this weapon, if light or heavy is within its control range, it has the lethal 5-up special rule, which is unchanged. And then as Wretched, it can perform the charge action while it has a conceal order, and if this operative is incapacitated during the fight action, you can strike the enemy operative in that sequence with one of your unresolved successes before it's removed from the kill zone. So otherwise, the Flenser is unchanged, still has Ceaseless, but Ceaseless is better now. So overall, the Flenser has been buffed, and it's still a great piece for your team. Then you have the Gunner, who can either have the Flamer, which is 4 attacks hitting on 2s, 3/3 range 8, saturate, torrent 2. The Grenade Launcher, that is either Frag or Crack, and Frag is 4 attacks hitting on 4s, 2/4 blast 2. The Crack is 4 attacks hitting on 4s, 4/5 piercing 1. Then it can have the Melter Gun, which is 4 attacks hitting on 4s, 6/3 range 6, devastating 4, piercing 2. And then the Plasma Gun, which is 4 attacks hitting on 4s, 4/6 piercing 1. Or Supercharge, which is 4 attacks hitting on 4s, 5/6 hot, lethal 5-up piercing 1. So you're generally always taking the Melter Gun and the Grenade Launcher or the Plasma. The Plasma is a bit worse because now it's not like if you go on hot, you effectively have like a 50% chance of taking 6 damage. So you're probably not overcharging at all unless you're like about to die anyway. But you're probably still taking the Plasma Gun and Melter Gun, maybe the Grenade Launcher and Melter Gun, before you would swap out the Melter Gun for like the Grenade Launcher and like Horde matchups. But I think you'd just always take the Melter Gun and the Grenade Launcher in that regard, just because the Melter Gun will just reliably delete anyone, although the Melter Gun is still, well, the Plasma Gun is still pretty decent. Then you've got the Traitor Ogre, who has 2 APL, 6-inch move, 5-up save, 16 wounds. Has the Power Maul and Mutant Claw, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 5/6 rending shock. He's got Avalanche of Muscle, so whenever this operative ends its move during the charge action, you can inflict D3 damage on one enemy operative within its control range, which is the same as before. It's got Chem Enhance, so you can ignore any changes to its APL stats, and it's not affected by shock or stun, which is unchanged. Then you've got the Brute special rule, so when your opponent is selecting this operative as a valid target, if this operative has a conceal order, it cannot use light terrain from cover, but it doesn't remove its cover save. So you can still benefit from cover and light cover, you just can't hide behind it, which is a buff, because before you couldn't even use light cover to gain cover. So it's a nice change there. And then you've got Slow-Witted. You must spend 1 action point for this, 1 additional action point for this operative to perform the mission actions and pick up marker actions, except doors, which is better because before it couldn't do any. So it can still open a door. It's actually really useful because now the Ogren could like open a door and hatchway fight. And then remember, you've probably given it Relentless, so it's even more deadly, which you did before. So the Ogren's actually still a solid piece. Then you've got the Sharpshooter, who has a long lance with mobile or stationary. The mobile profile is 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 3/4, and it has the stationary mode, which is 4 attacks hitting on 2s, 3/3 devastating 1 heavy dash only silent, which is really good there because it's got permanent silent. It's armed with a bayonet. It's got the camo cloak, so whenever an operative is shooting this operative, if you can retain any cover saves, you can retain 1 additional cover save, but it doesn't stack with advantage. So that's okay there. And then you've got a name whispered in blood. As a strategic gambit in the first turning point, select 1 enemy operative. Whenever this operative is shooting that enemy operative, treat this operative as if it has 1 of your blooded tokens and is under the gaze of the gods. So this is actually really good because it lasts the whole game. So you pick a key enemy operative you want to kill, and then effectively, you're probably not getting a shot off against them turning point 1, turning point 2 onwards, you will, and you count as having a blooded token, so you don't really need to give the sharpshooter anything, but you count as being on the gaze of the gods. So you're not just like retaining a hit, you're retaining a crit, which will automatically do 1 damage, and then they've still got a crit going through. So the sharpshooter, I don't know why it got buffed, but it did, and it also is just really good because it's one of the few snipers in the game with permanent silent. So very, very nice there. Then you have the Traitor Thug, who has a heavy club, which is 4 attacks hitting on freeze, 4/4 brutal, and tough. So whenever an operative is fighting or retaliating, and then it has the tough rule. So whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating or an operative is shooting it, normal damage or 3 or more inflicts 1 less damage on it. Its damage reduction has been toned down. It used to be to like way more, but it's fine. I think he's a useful piece. You're probably not taking it all the time, but the Traitor Thug is still nice. Then you've got the Trench Sweeper, who has a 4-up save with 9 wounds, has a shotgun, which is 4 attacks hitting on freeze, 3/3 range 6, and then a bayonet and shield, which is 3 attacks hitting on freeze, 2/3 shield. So shield, whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating with this weapon, each of your blocks can block 2 unit unresolved successes instead of 1. So if you have a crit, you can block a crit and a hit, or 2 hits. And then if you block with a hit, you block 2 hits. So very good there, unchanged. Then it's got shielding. Whenever this operative is activated, you can use this rule. If you do so until the start of the operative's next activation, you subtract 2 from its movement stat, so it goes down to a 4-inch move. And whenever this operative is shooting, whenever an enemy operative is shooting this operative, you can reroll any of your defense dice. So if you're into like a weak shooty horde team, like veteran guardsmen in general, you have a 4-up save, and you can reroll all of your defense dice instead of just 1 as it used to be. And now you have a 9-up save. Well, you have a 4-up save, sorry, with 9 wounds, whereas before you had a 4-up save with 7 wounds. So I actually really like the Trench Sweeper. It's oddly tanky, and it's great into other 7-wound teams. And oddly, can be quite nice into like shooty marine teams too. Then you've got the Traitor Trooper, who is your basic trooper who has a lasgun and bayonet and has group activation. So whenever this operative is expended, you must then activate one of your other friendly blooded trooper operatives if able before your opponent activates. When that other operative is expended, your opponent activates normally. In other words, you cannot activate with more than 2 Traitor Troopers in succession. So it's just GA2. They're completely unchanged. Then for faction equipment, you have the Chaos Sigil. So the reward earned Firefight Ploy costs you 0 CP, so you always take this just because it gives you a free Firefight Ploy. So this is the killing someone within 2 inches with the blooded token to gain another blooded token, which is very weird design. Then you've got the Sinister Trophy, so whenever an enemy operative is shooting against or fighting or retaliating against a friendly operative that is one of your blooded tokens and is within 2 inches of it, your opponent cannot reroll their attack dice of 1. I think you take this anyway. It's situational, but harming your opponent's rerolls is nice. Then you've got Symbols of Bloody Worship, so whenever a friendly operative ends an action, if it wasn't incapacitated and inflicted damage on an enemy operative or operatives, during that action regain 1 lost wound. So I don't really think this is great, but if you do take it, it does mean your Butcher is healing 4 D3 plus 1 wounds instead of D3. Fine. Then you've got Wicked Blades, add 1 to both the damage stats of each friendly operative's bayonet and shield, and improvised blade for the battle. I think you generally take this because it just makes your guys 3/4, which is very good. So you're probably always taking Sigil, Trophies, and Wicked Blades, and then probably 2 cracks, because your team makes a lot of usage out of crack grenades now, because you don't care if it hits on 4s, you have lots of ways to proc accurate and rerolls. So very nice there. For Operative Selection, you actually have a lot of choices. Generally, it's do you want to take the Plasma Pistol Leader or the Plasma Gunner? I recommend not taking the Plasma Pistol Leader. You get more out of the Gunner. So I recommend always running the Chieftain with the Power Sword pistol of your choice, because in my opinion, that's the best loadout. So blooded players are probably going to have to build a new leader. And then otherwise, you're going to take the other 9 operatives listed there. Note, they did forget to put the Corpsman in. So you can select a Corpsman. Well, technically you can't, but no one's really going to enforce that. So they forgot to put the Corpsman on there because reading. So you always take the Corpsman, in my opinion, just because it gives you Relentless. Then you take the Brimstone Grenadier, the Butcher, the Commsman, the Flenser, and then usually the Sharpshooter, and then the Melter Gun and the Plasma Gun. Maybe the Melter Gun and the Grenade Launcher into like Horde teams. And then you may want to do is like sometimes you'll drop the Corpsman for like the Trench Sweeper or the Thug. That generally depends, but usually I would probably take especially into elites. Grenadier, Butcher, Commsman, Flenser, Corpsman, Sharpshooter, Melter Gun, and Plasma Gun. And then you've got a Power Weapon Leader. You're generally always taking now the Enforcer and the Ogryn. I think both add way too much to the team to just take like an Ogryn and 2 Troopers, especially as you don't need to worry about actually having all these objectives you need to control. Maybe in some situations you'll drop like the Enforcer for the 2 Troopers to bring up your kill threshold to 13 Operatives. Because if you do take the Enforcer and the Ogryn, your kill tally goes down to 12. And technically having 14 for your kill tally is really good for you because it means it's hard for your opponent to max. So that's may be reasons why you don't take both the Enforcer and the Ogryn. But I think both add way too much. So I would always recommend the Enforcer and the Ogryn. They're just such huge force multipliers in a probably elite meta we're going to see. They're just too good. So for the Blooded kill team overview, they have been buffed quite a lot. And the main thing that's buffed them is they get Relentless pretty much everywhere they need it. They keep Relentless. Like the fact that the Corpsmen can just still give Relentless and they have Ploys that give them Relentless quite easily is a choice. I can definitely see why they're limited to 1 plasma weapon, but they're very deadly now. They are way more deadly than they used to be. Blooded were already good and now they're amazing. And the other thing is they're not locked into Seek and Destroy anymore. They are probably always playing Infiltration and you are probably always taking Gather Surveillance, because it's just so good for this kill team. This kill team is like really, really good. But definitely if you're an old-blooded player, you're very happy. They're one of the best hordes in the game just because they're still really killy. I do find they're still quite vulnerable into being like quickly overwhelmed by elites. So you do have to space out because now you can't just, you have to play around the fact you don't have indirect anymore. Like you don't have Seek, so you can't just easily pepper Marines. You're going to have to force them to come out. And in this kind of like drawn out game, elites can edge it out, especially if they start committing turning point 3. Because if an opponent commits to turning point 3, you're not going to have a Gaze of the Gods active until turning point 3, which means it's harder for you to wipe out your opponent, but it's also on the flip side harder for them to wipe out you. So you're going to have to figure that out. But in general, I think they're in a really great spot. They have now 14 to 12 operatives to focus over 3 points instead of 6. So I expect them to be terrifying. They are unfortunately only classified / assified for 1 year. So at Games Workshop tournaments and others, they will only be legal for a year from now, which is unfortunate. But at least in that year, you're going to have a good time killing people, getting blooded tokens, and being the bane of everyone, just going, I'm going to throw this grenade at my feet, and everyone's going to have a good time. But that's pretty much it from me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Did you find it useful and helpful? And what do you think of the changes to Blooded? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link, Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'll quickly shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crit, I have Tom, Super Cow, Stephen, Sam, Nick, Mr. Meatwad, Mercenary Q, Lucas, John Thomas, Graham, Fang Zhu, Dave Meatswell, Dad of Goldens, Chris, and then for my veterans of the crit, I have Samja and Ryan. So thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, you know, this is video number 4. I have 2 more videos to record and my voice is getting worse and worse. So this is great for me. I still have to edit them all. It's all fine. But Blooded are really, really cool. I was very tempted to play them, but another team or teams have gotten me. But Blooded are so good. I think they're just great and a really nice modeling opportunity. I have a full kill team anyway, but they are very fun. And I think they play all these missions really well. They're very, very interesting. Very, very fun. But remember, no matter how much you're being swamped by Blooded operatives with their Blooded tokens, there's always a chance for you to win as long as you can roll a crit.